Coming up, Joplin sees another Roe v. Wade protest march.
We've got warmer temperatures on the way. We're going to break it all down in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, pale sues go back up on the auction block.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Jalen Banks.
We've got some warm weather, Jalen. Did you know that? Because if you didn't, I got to tell you about it.
Well, it's June.
It is. See, that's the thing is I think, the past few days have been a little spoiled. We may have forgotten it was June. In fact, we're just, seems like minutes away from July. It's coming up soon. Out at 7th and Range Line, it's looking pretty fairly decent. Pretty fairly. 63, clear skies out there. Those clear skies are going to, of course, give way to the sun coming out. We got 60s across the board for the majority of us sitting down there. So here's what's going to go on throughout the day. As you can see, today's going to be a lot warmer than it was yesterday. The good news is the humidity is not quite building back up yet. So even though the temperatures are climbing, looking at an afternoon high of about 91, the humidity is not quite creeping in yet, but it is on the way, unfortunately. As we head into the overnight, it is going to dip back again into the lower 60s, but big changes on the way in the 7-day forecast. If you take a look here, I really don't want to show you because I don't want to scare anybody. Look at Tuesday. Look at Monday. We're going to be pushing nearly 100 by next week, a week from today. Well, okay. You know what I mean. It's going to be toasty. It's going to be unpleasant out there. And the problem is, too, is the humidity is going to start to return. You see, we got some storm chances Saturday and Sunday. So we are definitely going to keep an eye on all of that. And I'll break down the forecast in more detail here in just a little bit, Mr. Mann.
Well, it's good to see, the 60s right now. Enjoy them before we get back to 99 degrees in just 6 days.
Yeah, only 6 days and summer's back.
All right. Thank you, Chris. A gunman robs a Dollar General store in Webb City, Missouri. Just after 9 last night, Webb City police responded to a call at the Dollar General in Webb City on 1510 South Madison. Witnesses say a white man entered the store and demanded money from the employees. The man displayed a handgun and took an undetermined amount of cash. As you can see in the pictures, the suspect was dressed in blue jeans, a blue long sleeve shirt, black and green cap, a face mask, and brown boots. If you have any information, contact the Webb City Police Department at 417-673-1911. Authorities warn not to approach the suspect as he is considered armed and dangerous. A train strikes and kills a man in Noel, Missouri. At 8 p.m., the Noel Marshal's office, Noel, the fire department, and Freeman ambulance were dispatched to a train versus a pedestrian incident on the tracks in the Noel city limit. The first unit on scene discovered a deceased male on the track. The adult male was identified as a resident of Noel, and his next of kin were notified. The identity of the man has not been released at this time. This is an ongoing investigation, but foul play is not suspected. This is a developing story, and we'll have more on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as more information is released. On Tuesday, the city of Pittsburgh hosted a study session to give residents an update on the future of the future wastewater treatment plant. Ground has been broken on the $40 million project, but construction hasn't started yet. City officials say they have $4 million in funding secured, but are still working on gathering the rest. However, they say when it's complete, the plant will generate some revenue itself.
The biggest part is that it's old. It built in 1952 and added on, but so the biggest part of the plant's over 50 years old to as much as 70 years old.
Construction on the project is expected to finish around 2026. Health officials with the city of Joplin say the new number of COVID cases has climbed recently, and it now is in the high category. Officials at the peak of the pandemic saw 165 new cases per day. We're not near that now. There's just 22 new cases per day. Still, officials say we should be cautious.
As to why we're upticking, my assumption is that it's a number of things. One being that the cautiousness and the protections are not in place as much as what they once were.
According to the CDC, 58% of the U.S. population lives in an area with a medium or high COVID-19 community level. On Tuesday, some of the protesters hit the streets in Joplin to express their opposition to last week's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. It's one of a number of similar area protests in recent days. They marched from Par Hill Park to Rangeline.
I'm out here because I'm in a fight for women's rights. I believe that the Supreme Court has taken actions against women, and we need to fight that. And as our First Amendment right, we have the right to do so.
The march started at 12:30 Tuesday afternoon. Emergency contraception is flying off the shelves in the wake of the action from the Supreme Court. CVS, Rite Aid, and Walmart have all announced they are limiting purchases of over-the-counter morning after pills, such as Plan B. This is due to a fear of running out of supply, so rationing is starting to take place. CVS says their decision is to ensure equitable access, saying they have ample supply of pills. These pills prevent ovulation and fertilization from occurring and do not kill a fetus or fertilized egg. After 129 years, a tiny Southwest Missouri general store goes to a liquidation auction. The store is located in Wentworth, Missouri. Buyers can purchase the real estate of 6 lots, the contents of the old store containing numerous antiques, or the building and contents together. John Sweeney, the former owner of the Pell Sioux Mercantile, says he is ready to retire and pass on the legacy of the store to new owners.
Well, I have antiques from the beginning of the store all the way to the present day, and well, I figured that would help me sell the store, and so I can, retire comfortably.
The store was established in 1893. We'll hear more from the owner later in the show.
Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we're all sitting in the lower 60s across the 4-state area. That is going to change, though, as the sun decides to go ahead and come on out. Temperatures are going to rise. We're looking for an high about 91, sunny skies, dipping off again into the lower 60s for tonight, but we do have considerably warmer temperatures on the way. We're going to break down the 7-day forecast a little bit later. And Jalen, I'm going to tell you, Tanya picked the perfect time to go on vacation because right now it's pretty pleasant outside. She's going to get back tomorrow and be glad that she is in this air-conditioned studio because the heat is on its way.
Yeah, she told me that she's out camping with her boys this week.
Yeah, this is perfect weather for that for now. And so coming back tomorrow is perfect timing because you're not going to want to be out there in this humidity with the mosquitoes and heaven knows what else is going to come out when it gets so hot. So it's going to be, it's still good weather in general, you know?
Absolutely. Divine, if you ask me. But all right, thank you, Chris. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on KOAM Morning News, a TikTok trend is upsetting people in Southwest Florida. We'll have why. Plus, food banks are an important part to the community. We'll have how one is providing education alongside helping out food insecurity. And we'll have how you can keep your pets safe this 4th of July. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Well, people living in part of Southwest Florida are not happy with the new TikTok trend. They say it is leaving giant holes on beaches and threatening turtles. Gage Goulding reports.
It's a lot of work just to film a TikTok. Holes much bigger than this one have been found all over Sanibel, many thanks to a new social media challenge. But the real challenge is to our turtles who might get stuck in here, or to whoever has to fill it in.
You come and you make castles, you dig holes.
It's what the beach is all about, but leaving hand-carved castles like this, or even colossal craters, is a big no-no.
I almost fell in one.
You might too if you're doing the Sanibel stoop looking for shells, or taking a midnight walk under the stars. These holes aren't typically what you'd expect to see. Rather, they're more like shafts up to 5 feet deep and 4 feet wide.
I've seen indentations I've never seen holes like this before.
Allison Ward spotted these last week, and first thing Monday morning,
I found 4 holes, but 2 of them were especially deep.
it took the power of Sanibel's Public Works team to get them patched up.
When we're looking at the depth and size of some of these holes that we found on the beach, this wasn't just really a sandcastle.
Same goes down the coast on Marco Island. The police department posted this picture on Twitter. Look at the shovel for an idea of how big this hole actually is.
There was some TikTok challenges saying, how deep can you dig?
I don't care if they dig to China. Just fill it in before they leave.
It's not just for us, but for the turtles. This time of year, the beach is busy even when you're fast asleep.
We have moms on the beach at night, and we have the babies going to the water at night. They face so many threats already. This is one small thing that we can all do to help them.
All right, so here's the rule. If you dig a hole,
fill it back in.
And if you build it, they will come. Smash it down if you don't. So, if you really want to leave your mark on Sanibel, there is only one good way to do so.
Leave only footprints.
Well, still to come, how to protect your hearing during this 4th of July season, plus a check of the 7-day forecast from KOAM Morning News returns. Welcome back to KOAM Morning News. It is time for a quick check of that forecast. We are watching a number of different things that are getting ready to crop up this week. We've got temperatures. They're going to start warming up. They're actually going to start warming up today, but the humidity's not back yet. The heat and humidity start picking up tomorrow. And then we are still watching for a cold front to bring some thunderstorm chances as we head into the weekend. So Skywatch Storm Tracker is clear right now. The lower 48, got to go pretty far out to be able to find any activity. Got some down in the southeast and up in the Dakotas. Otherwise, it's pretty calm across the country. And take a look at the sky. It's pretty calm out there at 7th and Range Line as well. We got 63 is where we're sitting right now. And as we all head out the door this morning, we're sitting in the lower 60s. Got a cool spot though. Veneta 58, Cassville a little chilly too at 57. But worry not, because these temperatures are going to increase as we head through the day. In fact, this is what they're going to look like. 91 by the time we hit 5, 85 at noon, and 89 by 8. And check out those sunshines. Did you see those? It's going to be very clear. And that clear trend will continue as we head into the overnight and into tomorrow morning, dipping back into the lower 60s. Taking a look at the future track, want to show you this because this is as we head into Wednesday. You can see temperatures across the area beginning to increase, and they will continue to do so. Let's skip ahead a bit. I want to start off. We start off in lower 60s Thursday. Then this is 4 p.m. on Thursday. We're now getting into the lower 90s before our next weather maker starts to make its way into the area. We're going to take a look at the complete weekend forecast here a little bit later, but you can see some of those showers and thunderstorms starting to pop up Friday. We'll go all over that and what you can expect for the 4th of July. Now to an ongoing crisis, food insecurity in America. More than 38 million people across the country lived in food insecure households in 2020. That's according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, with rising inflation, food costs, and higher gas prices, low-income Americans are facing mounting challenges. Experts warn food insecurity is showing little signs of improving, resulting in potentially devastating consequences for their health. Gloria Pazmino explains how low-income Americans are affected by record-setting inflation in this report.
A bag full of vegetables and a little bit of food education.
Potassium is great for your cardiovascular system.
It's all on the menu to help Blanca Mateo feed her family for several days.
Si no lo sabía, el aguacate tiene potasio.
Blanca joined the New York Common Pantry here in the Bronx at the start of the pandemic. 2 years later, she is still dependent on this crucial lifeline. Based on her income, she pays $10 to receive fresh produce twice a month.
Si voy al supermercado con $10, no voy a comprar esto, no.
It's a big help. Record-breaking inflation, the high cost of gas, and price increases on everything from food to housing means low-income Americans like Blanca have seen little reprieve.
Food is one of the worst items hit by inflation in the last 4 decades.
This pantry tries to provide more than food. Participants get nutrition lessons, learning how to cook the produce and improve their diets. States with the highest projected number of people living in food-insecure households in 2021 included Texas, California, Florida, New York, and Ohio. As the pandemic recedes, thousands remain food insecure. It could all have devastating effects.
You're going to see higher levels of diabetes, higher levels of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, certain types of cancer, and all related to obesity and poor eating behavior.
When you're food insecure, access to fresh produce like this is not always guaranteed. Back at home, Blanca puts the nutrition lessons to work, like using less salt, sautéing with little to no oil, and fruits in a salad to make it more appealing to her 11-year-old son. Since joining the program, she's been able to come off high blood pressure medicine by focusing on her diet. While inflation continues to climb, pantries attempt to fill the void. But experts warn they're not a perfect solution.
This person had the ability to seek out and find a right program. Many people don't have that opportunity or choice.
In New York, I'm Gloria Pasmino, reporting.
This brings us to our something to talk about. Have you ever used a food bank? We do want to hear from you. You can vote at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. You can also vote in the KOAM app by scanning that QR code. And you can take part in the conversation on our Facebook page. Goodness gracious. Facebook.com/KOAM Fox 14. We're going to be right back with Healthwatch and Jalen Banks reading a lot better than me after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, we know it's important to take precautions to be safe around fireworks, especially if handling them. But experts say it's also critical to protect your hearing around fireworks this summer. Reporter Stephanie Stahl has more.
Plenty of Americans will attend fireworks displays this summer, and the American Academy of Audiology says we need to listen up and protect our hearing from loud noises. The group says the greatest risk is not the professional fireworks displays, but from the fireworks people use themselves in backyards. If a firework is close to you when it explodes, you could suffer immediate and permanent hearing damage. The inner ear has delicate hair cells, which do not grow back. If noise damages the cells, the result may be forever. Hearing loss can be due to aging and other factors, but exposure to loud noises is also a leading cause. More than 40 million Americans have hearing loss, 10 million related to loud noise. Signs can include hearing ringing, buzzing, or hissing noises after exposure to fireworks, or muffled hearing and having to turn up volume on devices suddenly. Other signs include having trouble understanding people speaking and people telling you speak too loudly. If that sounds familiar, audiologists say, get your hearing checked. I'm Stephanie Stahl, CBS News, Philadelphia.
The group says children are especially vulnerable for hearing loss from fireworks because they get excited and they want to be close to the activity. But be sure to keep the kids away. The CDC has opened an emergency center in response to the U.S. monkeypox outbreak. They also announced the activation of its emergency operations center Tuesday. It will be used to deal with the outbreak response from the government as well as a non-government agency's response. This facility was already supporting the CDC's reaction to the pandemic. It is also where experts monitor other public health emergencies like hurricanes, earthquakes, and oil spills. The 4th of July is always a big day for barbecues and fun. But as you enjoy the holiday weekend, make sure to take care of your pets who might not be as excited about it as you are. Rick Conway brings us some easy ways to make sure you stay safe and comfortable.
If you're planning on hosting a backyard barbecue this 4th, or maybe you live in a neighborhood that's known for setting off fireworks, Best Friends Animal Society, a national animal welfare organization, has a few tips to keep your furry family members safe. First, make sure you bring your animals inside when those fireworks start going off. Put them in a secure room with some comforting toys. Maybe put on the TV or play some music to help drown out the sound from outside. Consider a thunder shirt. It applies gentle pressure around a pet's torso. It can help with anxiety and stress. And if you're going to give them medication, make sure it's prescribed by a vet and pay attention to the dosage. Do not play with things like sparklers around your pets. Not only could they get burned, they're toxic if ingested. Always keep alcohol and other harmful human foods out of reach of your pets. Before the festivities even begin, double check that your pet is wearing a collar and identification tags with your contact information in case they get out. And finally, if Fido does get out, make sure you have a plan in place that includes using social media and checking local shelters to find them. Being prepared this holiday weekend can go a long way in making sure everyone in your family has a good time.
That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching KOAM Morning News.
Beautiful look live at 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. The sun is slowly beginning to rise. 6:01 is the official sunrise. We are sitting at 63 in Joplin, and the majority of us in the 4 states sitting in the lower 60s. Still got a couple of cool spots, Veneta and Cassville in the upper 50s. As we head through the day, we're looking at a high of 91. It'll be 85 by noon, 89 by 8. You can see these sunshine icons. They're there because it's going to be pretty darned clear for most of the day. Same as we head into the overnight. Now, the clear skies, though, let us cool off a little bit. Upper 60s once again, but we are going to really start to warm up over the next 24, 48 hours. So by noon today, again, we're heading for a nice day. It's going to be pretty pleasant. And then as we start the day tomorrow, start off pretty good. Temperatures in the lower 60s, and then they're going to start to really heat up. We're going to be in the lower 90s. Complete look at the 7-day forecast a little later when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Coming up, Joplin sees another Roe v. Wade protest march.
Got a beautiful start to your Wednesday morning with warm temperatures on the way, though. The latest in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, Pale Shoes goes back up on the auction block.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Jalen Banks.
It's going to be warm. Warmer today than it was the other day, and it's going to be a lot warmer as we head into the weekend. Jalen, live look at 7th and Rangeline. The sun is set to rise in approximately 31 minutes. Before it does, though, we're sitting in the low 60s, 63 in Joplin. Majority of the 4 states sitting in the low 60s at this fine hour of the day. It is going to warm up, though. We're heading for a high of 91. It'll be 85 by noon. You see those pretty sunshines. We got pretty clear skies as we head into the afternoon, and they're going to stay clear tonight, which will allow us to cool off into the lower 60s for overnight lows. However, temperatures are really going to pick up. I'm going to press this button a couple extra times and let you see what's going to happen by tomorrow afternoon. We're going to start pushing the lower 90s, and in that 7-day forecast, it's going to continue to get warm, and the humidity is going to return as well, which that also means we're going to see some thunderstorm chances as we head into the weekend. I'll talk a little bit more about the 4th of July and what we can expect then here in just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just going to continue to enjoy these cool mornings. I didn't have to blast my AC this morning on my way into the station, so that's always good.
Always a good thing. I didn't have to turn, I had mine on a very low setting just to get some fresh air, but yeah, no blasting of the AC this morning.
Yeah, had the windows down, just rolling, smooth ride.
Beautiful, beautiful morning.
Thank you, Chris. A train strikes and kills a man in Noel, Missouri. At 8 p.m., the Noel Marshal's Office, Noel Fire Department, and Freeman Ambulance were dispatched to a train versus pedestrian incident on the tracks in the Noel city limit. The first unit on scene discovered a deceased male on the tracks. The adult male was identified as a resident of Noel, and his next of kin were notified. The identity of the man has not been released at this time. This is an ongoing investigation, but foul play is not suspected. This is a developing story, and we'll have more on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as more information is released. A gunman robs a Dollar General store in Webb City, Missouri. Just after 9 last night, Webb City police responded to a call at the Dollar General in Webb City on 1510 South Madison. Witnesses say a white man entered the store and demanded money from the employees. The man displayed a handgun and took an undetermined amount of cash. As you can see in the pictures, the suspect was dressed in blue jeans, a blue long-sleeve shirt, a black and green cap, a face mask, and brown boots. If you have any information, please contact the Webb City Police Department at 417-673-1911. Authorities warn not to approach the suspect as he is considered armed and dangerous. There will soon be a new senior living facility in Carthage, Missouri. MBL Development hosted a groundbreaking along with the City and Chamber of Commerce for the future Carthage Senior Villas Phase 2. Construction is expected to finish next summer. It will consist of 38 units with 2 bedrooms and a community building.
There's a real big need within your county for senior housing, 62 and above. There's a 63% chance that most seniors will need additional housing. So it's a real big need in this county because of demographics.
The villas will be located at the northwest corner of Fur and Chapel Roads. Some teenagers across 21 counties in Missouri visited Joplin for an extra special field trip. KCU Medical School hosted the Missouri AHEC Science and Health MASH Camp. KCU faculty led activities, demonstrations, and tours for students throughout the campus. Demonstrations included dental saliva tests, health disparity exercises, dissections, and osteopathic manipulative treatment.
With these high school students, it's great because they're getting into it, and I have the ability to jump in and help increase their motivation, give them encouragement, and help them grow into a medical career hopefully someday.
The Missouri American Healthcare Education Center provides community outreach to all area high schools and pre-health profession programs. On Tuesday, some protesters hit the streets in Joplin to express their opposition to last week's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. It's one of a number of similar area protests in recent days. They marched from Par Hill Park to Rangeline.
I'm out here because I'm in a fight for women's rights. I believe that the Supreme Court has taken actions against women, and we need to fight that. And as our First Amendment right, we have the right to do so.
The march started at 12:30 Tuesday afternoon. After 129 years, a tiny Southwest Missouri general store goes to a liquidation auction. Pelsu's Mercantile is located in Wentworth, Missouri. KOAM's Shagun Bamidel was at the auction and has more on the story.
After serving the community of Wentworth for 129 years, John M. Sweeney, the former owner of Pelsu's Mercantile, has decided to retire and sell the century-old store.
Well, I have antiques from the beginning of the store all the way to the present day, and well, I figured that would help me sell the store, and so I can, retire comfortably.
John also tells us how the store was acquired by his aunt.
My aunt, Agnes Sweeney Pelsu, had a grocery store across the street from there in 1901 till it closed in '49. She married Pete Pelsu, and then they joined forces here at the store.
John says over the years, the buying power of big corporations has had an impact on his business.
Corporations, they had a big buying power, and that, I can't buy that much anymore, and so, because everything's dated, so you have to watch that. Years back, nothing was dated, so everybody, we had good business. We take in, quite a bit, but it just kind of slowed down, and that's I have more time on my hands, and I'd rather be waiting on customers.
The new owner of the store, Mona Robertson, says it is a relief to have bought the store.
It's a relief. Our father just passed away on June the 17th, and he spent his life dedicated to this town, and it means everything to have bought this in memory of my father.
In Wentworth, Shagbamdele, KOAM News.
Sweeney has been involved with this store since he was 10 years old. The store was established in 1893. And here's Chris with a look at our forecast.
Hey, check this out, Jalen. Temperatures are going to be warming up. We're looking at an afternoon high of about 90, 91 degrees, and we're going to be sitting in the upper 80s, lower 90s for most of us. We do have a pretty pleasant start to the day tomorrow, and it's going to warm up yet again with more of us getting into the lower 90s. The other thing coming with tomorrow is an increase in the humidity. We skip ahead a bit to Friday, and you're going to see increasing clouds and some little showers and thunderstorms popping up. I want to show you real quick. I want you to take a look at this. This is the future feels like. Now, this is Friday at 6 a.m., so that doesn't really matter. This is Friday at 5 p.m. look at these temperatures. We're talking upper 90s to 100-degree heat indices by Friday. Summer definitely making a return. And if you don't believe me, look at the 7-day forecast. Look at that. Look at that. We're getting right back up into the upper 90s by the start of next week. We do have some rain chances, though, on Monday. And, yeah, the good news is for the 4th of July, because people are really wanting to know. Right now, just like yesterday, it looks like anything we get, first off, is going to be isolated to widely scattered at best. Not everybody's going to see rain on Monday. And those of us who do, the storms and shower activity should be out of here before evening festivities begin. So hopefully that continues to be the case, and we'll end up having an absolutely perfect 4th of July.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I've got some plans as well, lighting some fireworks. Do not want to be doused in rain.
No, and a little bit of rain ahead of time might help with the ground because it's obviously been very dry lately. So you definitely, if you are lighting fireworks, you got to watch out for that too.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Chris. This morning we are discussing food banks. Record-breaking inflation, the high cost of gas, and price increases on everything from food to housing means low-income Americans have seen little reprieve. States with the highest projected number of people living in food-insecure households in 2021 include Texas, California, Florida, New York, and Ohio. As the pandemic recedes, thousands remain food insecure. It could all have devastating effects. This brings us to our something to talk about. Have you ever used a food bank? Yes or no?
We've got 67% of you saying yes, you have visited a food bank, with 33% of you saying no. You can vote online, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, and in our Facebook app, or our KOAM News app, and you can take part in the discussion on Facebook, facebook.com/KOAMFox14.
All right. Let's look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on KOAM Morning News, we'll have how fertility clinics are reacting to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Plus, we'll take a deeper dive into Hong Kong and its one country, two systems model as the 25th anniversary of the handover is near. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch as Hong Kong gears up for the 25th anniversary of its handover. Christy Lou Stout takes a look at the autonomy that was promised to the city in 1997 by China and what's left of the one country, two systems model.
After Margaret Thatcher reached a deal with the Chinese on the return of Hong Kong, a local reporter took the Iron Lady to task.
You signed an agreement with China promising to deliver over 5 million people into the hands of a communist dictatorship.
Thatcher claimed mostly everyone in Hong Kong was happy with the deal and told Emily Lau,
"You may be a solitary exception."
So what do you make of that answer today in 2022?
Many of the journalists who subsequently stood up, they asked similar questions. So even in that room, I wasn't a solitary exception.
July 1, 2022 marks exactly halfway through 50 years of the one country, two systems autonomy Beijing promised to Hong Kong at the 1997 handover. It aims to preserve the city's freedoms of expression and assembly, as well as its institutions, including an independent judiciary. But in the wake of the 2019 protests, pressure on the city's freedoms intensified thanks to a new national security law. Supporters say the law ended the chaos of 2019 and restored order, but it did more than that. Scenes of mass protests like this are no more. At least 186 people have been arrested under the law, including a 90-year-old Catholic cardinal. The opposition is virtually wiped out, with many of the city's pro-democracy figures in jail or exile. Politically charged artworks like the Pillar of Shame Tiananmen Memorial have been removed. Dozens of civil society groups, including the city's largest independent trade union, have disbanded. And national security investigations have led to the shuttering of news outlets like the Apple Daily. When asked about charges of diminished freedoms, a Hong Kong government spokesman told CNN many freedoms and rights are not absolute and can be restricted for reasons including protection of national security and public safety. So, as former security chief John Lee prepares to lead the city from July 1, what is left of Hong Kong's promised autonomy?
We have autonomy in religion, in education,
in media, including social media, in the internet, in how we manage our civil service. The second system is still here. It is functioning. It's under stress.
We want Hong Kong to be free.
Lau has always been a skeptic of one country, two systems. As a reporter, a lawmaker, and former chair of the Democratic Party.
I will not say that one country, two systems is completely finished. The fact that I can stand here in the Democratic Party office to talk to you shows there's some freedom. And there are some differences, but they are getting less and less.
Lau says she is staying in the city to support her friends and colleagues in prison, abiding by her mantra,
be bold, be wise, and be careful.
Christy Liu Stout, CNN, Hong Kong.
That's it. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, news you need to know before you head out the door. Tuesday was primary election day in Oklahoma, and voter turnout was steady. This primary marks the first statewide election since the general election in 2020. There were more than 10 polling places in Miami. To win a primary in the state, a candidate must receive an outright majority of the vote. On Tuesday, some protesters hit the streets in Joplin to express their opposition to last week's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. It's one of a number of similar area protests in recent days. They marched from Par Hill Park to Rangeline. Carthage will soon have a new senior living facility. MBL Development hosted a groundbreaking along with the City and Chamber of Commerce for the future of Carthage Senior Villas Phase 2. Construction is expected to finish next summer. It will consist of 38 bedroom units and a community building. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly declared a drought watch for southeast Kansas. A drought watch means the conditions are dry enough to be concerned for drought, but the conditions are still being monitored. Other parts of Kansas are currently under a drought emergency and drought warning. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Temperatures warming up today. We're going to hit a high of about 91 degrees on this Wednesday under clear skies. The good news is, even though temperatures are creeping up, the humidity is not doing so yet, and yet is the key word there. Because we're going to be clear and humidity and dew points aren't too high yet, we're going to dip back into the lower 60s tonight, but I want to take a look at the future, because what's going to ultimately happen is the heat summer itself is going to make a return as we head into tomorrow. We're going to start off nice, like I said, and we're going to start creeping into the lower 90s for most of us with that humidity on the rise. And as we head into Friday, rising humidity, it's going to bring some clouds and maybe even some isolated to scattered thunderstorm chances. And on the 7-day forecast, look at those temperatures as we head into next week, pushing 100. Maybe some showers on the 4th of July, but those should be confined to the early part of the day, meaning that your evening should be clear and free.
The Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade is already having a widespread impact across the country. Abortion is now effectively illegal in numerous states, but the ruling is also sparking concerns about the legal implications, like things pertaining to fertility treatments. David Bienick reports.
Hey, it's Rebecca.
For weeks now, Rebecca Pulio at Boston IVF has been taking dozens of phone calls from places like Texas, Missouri, and Florida, and from women who she says are very emotional.
Crying, very upset. Yes.
The women calling are worried that abortion bans in their states will interfere with their attempts to have a baby. That's because they fear some of the procedures sometimes involved in vitro fertilization might be interpreted as abortion under the strictest bans.
So over the last couple of decades, the incidence of multiple pregnancies has markedly declined.
But Dr. David Riley says triplets, quadruplets, and more are still possible. And in those cases, doctors sometimes reduce the number of fetuses to protect the health of the remaining ones and the health of the mother.
These laws are going to impact the health of women, those women for whom it is risky to be pregnancy.
Oklahoma's law bans nearly all abortions from the moment of fertilization. But the author of that law says it was never intended to apply to fertility treatments.
This would be in the case of proving that an abortion has occurred. and that would be tough to do in that situation.
Some women also fear the laws might prevent them from discarding frozen embryos they no longer need. For that reason, some are already planning to ship those embryos here to Massachusetts.
They're ready to move. They're ready to move because they're panicked over what might happen.
The impact of the Supreme Court decision isn't over yet. An increasing number of states are expected to move to ban or restrict abortion in the wake of the ruling. We'll be right back with another look at your forecast.
We've got another pretty warm day ahead of us today. In fact, it's going to be considerably warmer than even what it was yesterday. But the good news is humidity's not here yet. So let's talk about what we are watching. Temperatures are going to begin to warm up, and then the heat and humidity really going to return by tomorrow. That's the big thing. Temperatures tomorrow are not going to be drastically warmer, but the humidity is going to build. And because of that, we got a cold front that's going to bring us some thunderstorm chances as we head into the weekend. Skywatch storm tracker right now, not a thing on it, except when you zoom out, and then you see a few showers, thunderstorms across the lower 48, but we are clear. In fact, take a look. Sunrise getting ready to happen at 6:01, sitting at 61 in Joplin right now with a light south-southeast breeze. Most of us are in the lower 60s. We've still got a couple of cool spots, Veneta, Cassville, 58 and 59. And as we head through the day, it is going to warm up. We're going to have very clear skies, warming up to a high of about 91 by 5, 89 by 8 with a light east-northeast breeze. And then as we head into the overnight, because we're clear and because humidity and dew point are still going to be pretty low, we're going to dip back into the lower 60s across the board. As we head into the future, we have a lot more warm weather coming. In fact, let's just go straight to the 7-day forecast to talk about that. Heat continues to increase, thunderstorm chances increase, and then we're going to be pushing about 100 degrees by next week. More details on the forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Coming up, Oklahoma voted in its primaries yesterday, and we take a closer look at the primary process.
We've got clear skies to start your Wednesday morning out and warm temperatures on the way. We'll break it all down in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the Kansas Supreme Court gets ready to conduct a special night session as part of a community outreach program.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Jalen Banks. We'll have those stories and much more, but first, let's check in on Chris and see what we can expect today.
Well, we actually just got to about to expect me to fall. See, I've discussed this before. I've got to stand on a box at the desk because I'm too short. And that same box I have to use over here because even this is too tall for me. And I was running back over here and I just about missed the box. And we would have had ourselves a completely different forecast if I'd missed that box. But thankfully, I landed on it. We're good. Taking a look outside, 7th range line, check this out. The sun is going to rise right now. It's 6:01 a.m. and it's hidden behind those trees, but it is rising. We are sitting at 61 degrees in Joplin under those clear skies. Those clear skies are going to persist throughout the day. Most of us in the lower 60s this morning. 85 by noon, 91 by 5. That should be our expected afternoon high. 89 by 8. Clear skies continue into the overnight. Low humidity means we're going to dip on off to the lower 60s once again, and then the heat's really going to return. So I'm going to skip this ahead just a little bit into tomorrow afternoon. So tomorrow's high is not going to be too distinctly different from today. A few more lower 90s on the board, but the humidity is going to return, and that's going to give us some heat indices, and I'll go over those heat indices that you don't want to hear about a little bit later. You also don't want to take a look at this. I mean, just pretend you can't see Tuesday or Monday, because we're going to be pushing back near 100. Some thunderstorm chances into the weekend. The good news is 4th of July should not be a complete washout. So that's the one promising thing out of all that. And because of that, though, 97 on Monday, but that humidity is going to start building tomorrow.
Yeah, it's starting to get back to typical 4-state area weather.
Yeah.
But Chris, back to the whole box thing. You can never be a magician because you're not supposed to reveal your secrets.
I am not a very good magician at all. My kids don't believe anything I do. Any kind of magic trick I do, anything I try and show them, they're like, they just don't buy it. They don't buy it. The youngest one, he'll laugh, and that's about as far as that goes. But he doesn't believe it either.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully the 4 states will believe your forecasting.
I don't know if they want to believe that forecast, but unfortunately, at least that much is true.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. A gunman robs a Dollar General store in Webb City, Missouri. Just after 9 last night, Webb City police responded to a call at the Dollar General in Webb City on 1510 South Madison. Witnesses say a white man entered the store and demanded money from the employees. The man displayed a handgun and took an undetermined amount of cash. As you can see in the pictures, the subject was dressed in blue jeans, a blue long sleeve shirt, a black and green cap, a face mask, and brown boots. If you have any information, please contact the Webb City Police Department at 417-673-1911. Authorities warn not to approach the suspect as he is considered armed and dangerous. A train strikes and kills a man in Noel, Missouri. At 8 p.m., the Noel Marshal's office, Noel Fire Department, and Freeman Ambulance were dispatched to a train versus pedestrian incident on the tracks in the Noel city limit. The first unit on the scene discovered a deceased male on the tracks. The adult male was identified as a resident of Noel, and his next of kin were notified. The identity of the man has not been released at this time. This is an ongoing investigation, but foul play is not suspected. This is a developing story, and we'll have more on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com as more information is released. Tuesday was primary election day in Oklahoma, and voter turnout was steady. This primary marks the first statewide election since the general election in 2020. There are more than 10 polling places in Miami. To win a primary in the state, a candidate must receive an outright majority of the vote.
Primaries are important because you have to have a way to sift out the best candidate for each party to present to the general election. So not only will we have a primary today, it's in all likelihood we'll have a runoff.
Be sure to check our website for full election results. Later in the show, our own Amber Jenkins has more on the Oklahoma primaries. The Kansas Supreme Court will conduct a special evening session October 3rd in Parsons. Kansas, as part of its ongoing outreach to familiarize Kansas with the High Court, its work, and the overall role of the Kansas judiciary. The court will be in session from 6:30 p.m. to about 8 p.m. October 3rd at Parsons High School. It'll be the Supreme Court's first visit to Parsons in the court's 161-year history, and it'll only be the 13th time the court will hear cases in the evening. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly declares a drought watch for southeast Kansas. A drought watch means the conditions are dry enough to be concerned for a drought, but the conditions are still being monitored. Other parts of Kansas are currently under a drought emergency and drought warning. Health officials with the city of Joplin say the number of new COVID cases has climbed recently, and it now is in the high category. Officials say at the peak of the pandemic, Joplin saw 165 new cases per day. We're not near that now. There's just 22 new cases per day. Still, officials say we should be cautious.
As to why we're upticking, my assumption is that it's a number of things. One being that the cautiousness and the protections are not in place as much as what they once were.
According to the CDC, 58% of the U.S. population lives in an area with a medium or high COVID-19 community level. If you're ever on the go and want to still be able to watch our newscast live, just download the KOAM Plus app. It's available for free of charge on the Apple and Google Play stores, as well as Roku and Amazon Fire TV. Just search for KOAM Plus. On this date in 1958, Brazil wins its first of 5 World Cups and introduces a 17-year-old football phenom named Pelé to the world. The beautiful game of the Brazilians beat the host country of Sweden 5-2, but the story of the game was an undersized midfielder named Edson Arantes de Nascimento, known to the world over as Pelé. Pelé was discovered at the age of 14 and earned his first cap with the national team at the age of 16. 1958's World Cup marked his international debut. It was the semifinal match against France where Pelé put on a show that stunned the world and single-handedly knocked off the second-best team in the world. Brazil went on to win the World Cup again in 1962 and 1970. In the 1999 International Olympic Committee honored Pele, along with 10 others, as one of the best athletes of the century.
So see, that's the thing, is I'm a little mid-sized myself. I'm considerably shorter than you are, Jalen, but I've never been athletically inclined. I've been told I could be a jockey.
Well, why not?
I have way too many fears in my life, and climbing on the back of a horse at high speed is just not something that seems like it's a good idea for me. I'm just saying, maybe that's just me. I'm crazy. You never know. I'm no horse riding. But you, on the other hand, are an athlete.
Well, was an athlete one point in my
yeah,
life.
I mean, once an athlete, always an athlete. I mean, if we went out and played some football, you'd still have your game, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying.
10,000 hours, you know.
Only 10,000 hours of football, and you're saying you were an athlete. Okay, yeah, because as soon as you stopped, you suddenly lose the skills, right?
Well, I'm sure if you took a break away from your profession, you'd be able to pick it up, so I guess at one point.
See, that's what I'm saying. Real quick, check out that 7-day forecast for you. We have warming temperatures and increasing storm chances as we head into the weekend. We'll break down that full forecast a little bit later.
All right, thank you, Chris. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, we've got a pair to interview. On the way, Jesse Gilmore from the K-State Extension Office stops by the studio to tell us exactly what edible landscaping is. Jane Olbert and Pastor Chuck Kralik from the Byers Avenue United Methodist Church are here to tell us about the sweet pie sale. Yum! And a new study suggests that depression screening for mothers and fathers after a child is born could help more families with mental health resources. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Today in studio with us we have Jesse Gilmore from the K-State Extension Office, and we're going to be learning about edible landscaping. So is that like Willy Wonka? Or
a little bit.
Okay.
So edible landscaping is kind of a combination of two of my fields. I am the horticulture extension agent, which means that I'm dealing with fruits and vegetables, I'm dealing with ornamentals, trees, and turf grass. A lot of people really want to have a garden, and you saw a huge uptick in gardening over the pandemic, especially in 2020. Garden centers were selling out all over the place. Not everyone has the time to be able to dedicate to gardening. Some people also have accessibility issues where movement might not be possible. Edible landscaping is an attempt and a growing movement to get food plants into the garden that more have an ornamental aspect to them, but also have some kind of food production aspect to them. So you're looking for plants that have a very nice look during the spring and or the fall, but also have food production of some kind in order to get some of the food back that you might get gardening. It is not as high intensity as like traditional fruit and vegetable gardening is, and often you're going to be finding more niche plants that you've never heard of for food production, but it is a good way to kind of work some food into your landscape naturally that does not require a ton of time or input on your part.
So how does one go about starting this?
So when I've talked with people about edible landscaping, I get a lot of questions about whether or not they should just convert their entire landscape into food producing plants. And no, you should not. Oftentimes when people start with edible landscaping, they should start with 1 or 2 really high production plants and then kind of work their way up from there, seeing what they can harvest. A few times I've talked with people who have converted their entire landscape to edible plants, and a lot of food gets kind of thrown by the wayside because of that, because they can't keep up with all of the production that their landscape around their house can create. And so that creates a lot of discouragement when people see, you know, the food that they were initially intending to harvest going to waste. So starting small and then working out from there. One of the main design philosophies of edible landscaping is that you keep the plants that require the most work the closest to your house. And as you spread outward from the house, as you need to, go out farther to water and to harvest, you make those plants easier to care for and easier to harvest from. So those are going to be more like 1 or 2 fruit trees that you can harvest from, that you get really big fruit from. The plants that you would want to keep closer to your house include high water intensity herbs, berry plants that you need to pick a lot of fruit from, and those similar types of plants.
What are some easy starter plants for people interested at home that they may want to look into?
Easy starter plants. One of my favorite plants is the chokeberry, Aronia melanocarpa, specifically the black chokeberry. That plant you have to try and kill once you get it established. It is very tolerant of a wide variety of site conditions: sun, shade, sand, clay, wet, dry. It is also a very good producer of berries. The one thing you need to know about chokeberry is that it lives up to its name. It's a very astringent fruit if it does not go through a frost or 2 in the fall, but that means you are getting fresh fruit from your plants in the winter. Some other good options for edible landscaping include currants and gooseberries, specifically the clove currant or golden currant, Ribes odoratum, is one plant that I like recommending, especially out for the drier parts of the area, because it has a very intense fragrance. Nice bright yellow flowers in the spring, smells like vanilla and cloves, so that would be a good plant to put near places where people frequent, like a deck or patio, so that you can get the benefits of the fragrance in addition to the flowers. But those are 2 of my favorite edible landscaping plants, and I am teaching a class on edible landscaping at each of our county fairs coming up in about a month. So if you are interested in learning more about edible landscaping, just come on out to Labette, Crawford, Montgomery, or Wilson counties for their fairs and attend my class, and I would love to teach you guys more about edible landscaping.
Awesome, thank you. You guys heard them. Just reach out so you can get your own edible landscaping set up.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. We're going from edible landscaping to a pie fundraiser. And by the way, pie is edible. And this one's going to support a good cause. It's raising money for local missions. So first, tell me a little bit about what exactly you're doing. What are these missions that you're wanting to raise money for?
Well, some of the missions that we support through our pie sales are God's Resort, Unity in the Community, Stapleton Elementary, just a lot of local missions around Joplin.
Gotcha. And why pie?
Well, we started making these pies when we did a dinner theater at Byers Avenue, and we would serve the pies at halftime, and people would just clamor for them other times during the year. So about 25 years ago, we started this pie fundraiser, and it's always around the 4th of July weekend. This year, we're doing it Friday, Saturday, and Monday, July 1st, 2nd, and 4th. And we make all the pies, everything from scratch to order. You order it in advance, and you pick up on the day that you choose to pick your pies up. So we make our own crust. Everything is totally from scratch, and people just love them.
Gotcha. And the camera is not capturing the complete beauty of this pie that's sitting here. What kind of pie is this one?
This is a French silk pie. It has our famous crust with a really delicious, rich, creamy chocolate mousse and a cream topping and chocolate shaving on the top of it. It's one of our best sellers, along with, we have several meringue pies. Coconut meringue is our top seller probably, and we also make apple and cherry and a butterscotch, lemon,
that was going to be my next question.
banana,
what kind of
pecan,
do you have?
pumpkin, peanut butter. Yeah, we make a big variety, and we make them in large. This is a 10-inch pie, and that sells for $16. And then we make a 6-inch mini pie, and those sell for $8.
And in terms of the fundraiser, how much does this help in going toward these missions? How much do you manage to raise from these?
So we sell about 900 to 1,000 pies,
yes.
correct?
And in 3 days.
And we make about $9,000?
Yes. Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's got to, for anybody who's wondering, that's got to talk about the testament of how good these pies are.
They are very good.
Yes.
So if people do want to order a pie, is it too late to order one? Or
It is not too late to order one. You can go to the church's website, which you can Google Byers Avenue United Methodist Church, or it's BYERSAVEUMC.org, or you can call the church office at 417-624-3647.
And when people make these orders, do they pay at the time of the order, or do they pay at time of pickup?
They can do either. If they order online, we don't have a way to collect online, so they pay when they pick it up.
Gotcha. And you mentioned that it's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Monday.
Yes.
And with it being the 4th of July weekend, do you think that will help, especially with the temperatures warming up, that's going to end up helping with these pie sales?
Oh, absolutely. And there are hundreds of buyers that they just now expect to be able to buy these pies to be part of their 4th of July celebration. It's a tradition for them.
So for anybody who's not tried these pies and you want to give it a shot, you've got 3 days to do it. You can order now.
Right.
And you can make it part of your 4th of July tradition.
Yes, sir.
That's an excellent thing to make part of your tradition too, by the way. I mean, who doesn't like a good pie on a nice hot evening?
We make the apple and the cherry baked and ready to eat, and also assembled frozen, and you take it home and bake it later. So a lot of people stock up their freezer for Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays with apple and cherry pie.
Oh, wow.
And when you come to get your pies on the 1st, 2nd, or 4th, we do kind of like the Chick-fil-A where you just drive up and we will deliver your pies out to your car.
Excellent. So you don't even have to get out of your car.
Don't
The pies
even
are going
have
to
to
come
get out of
right
your car.
to you. You got all that deliciousness, and you're helping raise money for these missions. So, and real quick, just tell me, how important are these missions, by the way? I mean, what makes them so special? What makes them so important?
Well, just really important. For example, God's Resort helps people who are maybe a little bit down on their luck, and we just give money to support the programming that they do. Stapleton Elementary obviously works with students. We just try to, as a church, to partner with a lot of different agencies that are helping people in our community.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in so early and bringing something so delicious to the studio.
Enjoy your pie.
Yeah. I am sure that we will. I mean, I kind of just want to go ahead and take a little bit of it now. We've got all the information you need to know on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, to get those orders in and make sure you get yourself something extra delicious for the 4th. We've got more of the KOAM Morning News when we come back.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, deaths during pregnancy or right after delivery have increased 18% in the U.S. since 2020. That's according to the new maternal mortality data from the National Center for Health Statistics. The analysis shows the death rate just after the start of the pandemic was even higher, and Black and non-white Hispanic mothers were impacted the most. A new study from Rutgers University suggests screening mothers and fathers for depression beyond the current standard of the first year after a child is born and could identify more families who need mental health resources. Parental depression affects 1 in 5 families and can have negative health impacts on both parents and children. And younger adults are less likely to be screened for colorectal cancer than older adults in the U.S., even though they're eligible under screening guidelines. New research from the University of Texas Health Science Center also finds younger adults face greater disparities. Recent guidelines lowered the recommended screening age for colorectal cancer from 50 to 45 for average risk adults. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
As the philosophers collectively known as the Beatles once said, here comes the sun. There it is. It is rising. It's going to be a beautiful day today. 61 is where we're sitting right now. Most of us still sitting in the lower 60s across the 4 states. Cassville, a cool spot at 55 still. 85 by noon, 91 by 5, and 89 by 8. Temperatures will rise. The good news is today, at least, the humidity is not going to rise. So because of that, because of clear skies, we're going to drop back into the lower 60s roughly one more time before temperatures really start to pick up. And on that 7-day forecast, you can see where those temperatures pick up. And as they do, we have thunderstorm chances, including the 4th of July. We'll have more on your complete forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Coming up, Oklahoma voted in its primaries yesterday, and we take a closer look at the primary process.
Sun is coming up, and that means we're going to have a beautiful day and a warm one. We'll break down the full forecast in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the Kansas Supreme Court gets ready to conduct a special night session as part of a community outreach program.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:31. I'm Jalen Banks. It's going over to Chris to see what we hope to hear is some good news for the weather.
I do have some, well, it's good news for today at least.
Okay.
I've had a special request from somebody who's watching the morning show right now. I want to take care of this request real quick. So I mentioned, that I stand on a box. Without it, I'm a little bit shorter. What people don't always know, I'll move this. First off, Jalen's really tall. Second off, without it, this desk is mildly uncomfortable to stand at. I'm just letting you know. That's why, yeah, look, he is squatting right now to be about my height, and he's still taller than I am. I wanted to let you all know, I'm not making this stuff up. I am shorter than I appear on television. Our forecast, though, is not going to be coming up short in the heat department. Sun is rising. We are sitting at 61. Most of us are sitting in the lower 60s as we start this day. 7-day forecast, though, showing us a warm up. Take a look at that. It's going to be 93 tomorrow. Now, the difference between today and tomorrow is the humidity starts to rise. So we're going to start to see heat indice values building in close to 100 degrees, if not 100 by Friday. So thunderstorm chances by the weekend. 4th of July, hot. Shouldn't be a complete washout. And then Tuesday, you might as well just stay indoors. You're going to need to take an extra day off after 4th of July anyway, so just stay inside.
You want to know who's fortunate right now, though?
Who's that?
Our very own Tanya Bach.
She is. She's enjoying this nice weather. She's going to be back tomorrow. And, no, she's not back tomorrow. She's back on Friday. Our good friend Tim, is reminding me right now that Tanya's back on Friday. I'm actually filling in for Tanya tomorrow. And she'll be back for either way. She's coming back.
Yes.
And at the right time, because it is going to start to get miserable out there.
But yeah, she's out camping with her boys, enjoying these cooler temps. And then Friday, when it heats back up and gets humid, she's going to be in a nice air-conditioned studio.
Yes, and that's going to be the right place to be, somewhere with air conditioning.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Tuesday's elections were Oklahoma's first statewide elections since 2020. Since the 2020 general elections, KOAM's Amber Jenkins was at the polling sites and has more on their importance.
Voting is an American right. However, many Americans assume voting in the national election is more important than voting in primary elections. But that's not necessarily the case.
The point of a primary is to basically narrow the field, because you might have 10 people looking after a position, and we have to narrow that down to 1 or 2 candidates.
The Republican ballot has a lot of candidates running for the unexpired U.S. Senator seat and state superintendent. Polling shows there might be a runoff.
We have some positions that have multiple candidates, and you have to have 50 plus 1 in order to go on to the general election ballot. So that will take place in August.
This primary is a big deal for Oklahoma. This is the first statewide election since the 2020 general elections. The primary elections is perfect for Americans in Oklahoma to get their voices heard.
Want the right candidate to vote for in the general election, you have to exercise your responsibility to vote in the primary election.
In Miami, Amber Jenkins, KOAM News.
The Kansas Supreme Court will conduct a special evening session October 3rd in Parsons, Kansas, as part of its ongoing outreach to familiarize Kansans with the High Court, its work, and the overall role of the Kansas judiciary. The court will be in session from 6:30 p.m. to about 8 p.m. October 3rd at Parsons High School. It'll be the Supreme Court's first visit to Parsons in the court's 160-year history, and it'll be only the 13th time the court will have hearings in the evening. Carthage will soon have a new senior living facility. MBL Development hosted a groundbreaking along with the City and Chamber of Commerce for the future of Carthage Senior Villas Phase 2. Construction is expected to finish next summer. It will consist of 38 two-bedroom units and a community building.
There's a real big need within your county for senior housing, 62 and above. There's a 63% chance that most seniors will need additional housing. So it's a real big need in this county because of demographics.
The facility will be at the northwest corner of Fir and Chapel Roads. Crews removed the old antenna from the top of our tower on Tuesday. The new antenna, weighing 12.5 tons, went up the tower. For now, we're broadcasting from a temporary antenna lower on the tower as we prepare to transition to a new, more powerful transmitter. Our signal might be a little glitchy for some of you for the time being, but when this project is finished, we'll be broadcasting with more power than ever. Check out the progress anytime on our website at koamnewsnow.com/power. On this date, way back in 1613, the Globe Theater burns down. The Globe was built by Shakespeare's acting company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men, in 1599 from the timbers of London's very first permanent theater, Burbage's Theatre, which was built in 1576. Like other theaters of its time, the Globe was a round wooden structure with the stage at one end and covered balconies for the gentry. The galleries could seat about 2,000 people with room for another 1,000 groundlings who could stand on the ground around the stage. The Lord Chamberlain's Men built Blackfriars Theatre in 1806, a smaller theater that seated about 700 people to use in the winter when the open-air Globe wasn't practical.
You know, I remember learning about that theater back in high school and learning about its history and the fire itself, and it was a very fascinating just theater and the fact of how it was designed and built.
Do you have a favorite Shakespeare play?
Romeo and Juliet, most likely. Just because I saw it so many times in high school, you know, and we read it so many times, I was just used to it. Quick check of that forecast. I wanted to show you future heat indices. So as we head into Friday, we're going to be pushing close to 100, and that's with a high of around 95. We're going to be hitting the upper 90s to close to 100 next week. We're going to break down your full forecast here in just a little bit.
All right, thank you, Chris. That's a look at our top news stories coming up. This KOAM half-hour KOAM morning news. A former White House aide drops us several bombshells at the latest round of congressional hearings on the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. Plus, food banks have provided assistance to people in America who live in food-insecure households, and we want to know if you've ever needed such service from a food bank. Vote now on the KOAM Mornings Insta poll, and we'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, a former White House aide dropped several bombshells at the sixth round of congressional hearings on the January 6th assault in 2021 on the U.S. Capitol. Cassidy Hutchinson, who worked for Mark Meadows, President Trump's White House chief of staff, testified about former president lashing out as he tried to join the crowd on its way to the Capitol. Naomi Rakim reports.
In dramatic testimony, former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson described an alleged altercation in the presidential limo on January 6th, as told to her by another White House staffer. She says President Trump's chief Secret Service agent Bobby Engel refused to bring him to the U.S. Capitol just after he directed a crowd of his supporters there.
The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
The House Select Committee also played Hutchinson's videotaped testimony when she recalled a conversation with her boss, Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows.
The rioters are getting really close. Have you talked to the president? He said, no, he wants to be alone right now.
She also testified that White House counsel Pat Cipollone approached Meadows about trying to stop the violence.
I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, "Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung." And Mark had responded something to the effect of, "You heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it."
Hutchinson said she understood that President Trump knew his supporters were armed, but that he wanted the metal detectors removed because they would reduce the size of his White House ellipse crowd.
I overheard the president say something to the effect of, You know, I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away.
Former President Trump responded to the hearing, saying Hutchinson was giving a fake story and that he hardly knew her. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
In regards to the testimony, Mr. Trump's behavior inside the presidential limo on January 6th, a source close to the Secret Service confirmed to CBS News that the agent and the driver are prepared to testify under oath that neither man was physically attacked or assaulted by Trump, and that the former president never lunged for the steering wheel of the vehicle. The Secret Service released an official statement saying it intends to respond to Hutchinson's testimony. That's a look at one of today's top national stories. Now, let's go to Chris over for weather.
Well, this morning we're discussing food banks. Record-breaking inflation, the high cost of gas, and price increases on everything from food to housing means low-income Americans have seen little reprieve. States with the highest projected number of people living in food-insecure households in 2021 include Texas, California, Florida, New York, and Ohio. As the pandemic recedes, thousands remain food insecure, and it could have devastating effects. That brings us to our something to talk about. Have you ever used a food bank? We are asking you to vote. You can do so at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, through the KOAM News Now app, and through our Facebook page in the discussion. We'll be right back.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, James Holland Sr. Buck Sergeant James Holland Sr. served in the Marines from 1950 to 1952. He served in Korea with the Dog Company. We thank you, today's four-state hero, James Holland Sr.
Time to celebrate some birthdays. Look at this little guy here. Sterling Newman turning 1 in Riverton. He's making his way up.
We celebrate Ayla K. Ridner of Weir, Kansas. Happy birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. And much love from Oma and Pop Pop.
We're also celebrating Jerry Dietz in Weir. He is turning 74, and Mr. Dietz is also one of our many four-state heroes. We thank you for your service, and we hope that you have a glorious birthday today.
And we're also celebrating the twin of Jerry, Daryl Dietz. He's one of our many four-state heroes as well, and is a graphic artist is the graphic artist of, oh my goodness, I apologize.
He's Will York's uncle.
He's
Will York's our
yeah,
graphics
Will
guy.
York's
He
uncle.
makes all these things, and he is Will York's uncle. Yeah. It's a little tough. This text is kind of small. So happy birthday to Daryl. We're also celebrating Gene Carr, who's turning 92 years young in Girard. His birthday was yesterday, and this birthday comes with love from the family.
Happy birthday of Janie Fletcher of Columbus, Kansas.
We've also got Courtney Clark in Joplin. She works as a registered nurse now. You can see she just graduated in that photo, and she is now working as a nurse out there helping to keep folks like you and me alive. So Courtney, thank you for that, and a very happy birthday to you.
And we wish a very, very, very happy birthday to KOAM's very own Carrie Worthen. Carrie Worthen is the Swiss Army knife, one of the backbones of our news team. Very dedicated member. Much love from everyone here at KOAM, Carrie.
And here's some good news. We also have Justin Town turning 30 in Iola, and Angela Red in Pittsburgh celebrating a birthday as well. Happy birthday to the both of you. Now, for even more good news, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and sign up. You can get special deals from local businesses. All you need to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com and check out that birthday club. Coming up, what has a mohawk, a lopsided face, and a tongue that won't stay in its mouth? Why, the winner of the world's ugliest dog contest, of course. His name is Mr. Happy Face, and only Jeannie Moose could bring us the details on this quirky competition and its handsome winner. We're going to the dogs when the KOAM Morning News switches over to Fox 14. Our 7-day forecast showing temperatures getting nice and toasty, very hot. Very unpleasant, as you can see, as we head into the weekend. Humidity is going to return. So today we're heading for about a high of about 90, 91, and then the humidity, not a big deal today. It's going to be tomorrow that the humidity starts to creep back in, and as it does so, not only do the temperatures go up, Let me show you this real quick. These are the future feels like temperatures for Friday. Heat indices Friday looking to push close to, or if not at, 100. And then as you saw on that 7 days, we head into the start of next week, temperatures pushing 100, which means heat index values are going to be very unpleasant. You do see some rain chances through the weekend, rain chances as well on the 4th of July. The good news there is it should happen early in the day. And by early in the day, I don't mean 7 a.m. I mean, we may see some isolated scattered showers as late as 4 or 5 o'clock, but it shouldn't be a complete washout. And the good news is it's a low-end enough chance that the majority of us are going to stay dry. And those of us that do see rain, it should be out of here before it's time to light off fireworks and celebrate the 4th of July. We have got a little bit more of the KOAM Morning News when we come back.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Tuesday was primary election day in Oklahoma, and voter turnout was steady. This primary marks the first statewide election since the general election in 2020. There are more than 10 polling places in Miami. To win a primary in the state, a candidate must receive an outright majority of vote. On Tuesday, some protesters hit the streets in Joplin to express their opposition to last week's Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade. It's one of a number of similar area protests in recent days. They marched from Par Hill Park to Rangeline. Carthage will soon have a new senior living facility. NBL Development hosted a groundbreaking along with the city and Chamber of Commerce for the future of Carthage Senior Villas Phase 2. Construction is expected to finish next summer. It will consist of 38 two-bedroom units and a community building. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly declared a drought watch for southeast Kansas. A drought watch means the conditions are dry enough to be concerned for a drought, but the conditions are still being monitored. Other parts of Kansas are currently under a drought emergency and drought warning. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Take a look at our forecast for today. It's going to be a very clear, very warm day. 85 by noon, 91 by 5 o'clock, dipping. We're not really dipping off to 89 by 8. It is going to be very clear. Now, here's the deal. While temperatures are increasing today, the humidity is not increasing. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Overnight lows tonight, because we do have low humidity and clear skies, we're going to be dipping off into the lower 60s across the board, and those clear skies will remain. Heading into the future, though, I want to show you this. This is the heat indices for Friday. So we're going to start the day, of course, pretty nice. But as we head into the afternoon, we're going to have a high of about 95 with heat index values approaching, if not meeting, 100 degrees because the humidity levels are going to be increasing. As the humidity levels increase, we do have a cold front coming through this weekend. And by cold, we mean it's maybe going to rain on us. Better chances on Sunday and Monday for some scattered showers and thunderstorms. 4th of July should not be a washout, though. Most storms should be confined to the morning, but check out those highs. 97 Monday, 99 on Tuesday, and that's not counting the heat index values. Overnight lows, we're going from the lower 60s to the upper 70s when you wake up in the morning. So big changes on the way as summer makes a very bold return to the 4 states. Coming up today at noon, we're going to make a no-bake cheesecake in Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Your morning news continues on KOAM with the CBS Morning News, and just ahead, a new investigative series called Crime Without Punishment, a look inside the Philadelphia Police Department and why there's a disturbing rise in unsolved murders. Or you can switch over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news returns. You can grab the popcorn because we've got a preview of some July blockbuster movies that are going to be headed to the theater. I haven't been to the movie theater in a minute, so I definitely need to get back. Plus, you know you want Jeannie Moose to take you to the world's ugliest dog contest. And it's not pictures of me. I promise. It's not. It's a legitimate ugly dog.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, just stick with us, but that'll wrap things up for now. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
And then, of course, we'll see you today at noon after the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. And get out.